Hey there, so it's that time of year again. We are closing the pool. It's been a fun summer, and so being here in Michigan, we do get harsh winters, and it is extremely important to get these lines winterized, get them blown out. There's multiple ways to blow out the lines, whether you have a really high-powered compressor, shop-vac, and what I'm going to show you today is just even a leaf blower. So our pool has 4 returns, 2 here at the stairs, 1 at the shallow end, 1 at the deep end, and those are what we're going to start blowing out. So one important thing to note before we get started, I've already gone ahead and drained out some of the water so that we're now sitting just below the returns in the pool. Draining the water is important so that as we blow the lines out, we don't have water going right back into the lines. It gives us opportunity to really get those lines clear. What I generally do is I'll take the fittings off of these jets here. And then once we get all the fittings out, we'll be ready to blow them out, and then afterwards we will go ahead and insert some plugs. So this here is a look at my setup and what I use to actually blow out the lines. I've got an old Black & Decker leaf blower here. I've got a shop-vac attachment for the hose. This is about a 1 1/4 inch diameter, and it fits perfectly into the opening on our leaf blower there. Got just some rags and then some duct tape. There's many different ways to rig up a leaf blower. This is just kind of what I've had laying around over the years. So I like to insert our shop-vac nozzle there, and then we're going to try and block the airflow around the shop-vac there so that we can push as much air through the nozzle here. Then I just take some duct tape. I'm just going to wrap it around the rags there to help keep them in place. So now we are ready to go. So this is a look at our equipment pad for our pool. We've got our returns going back to the pump. We've got our skimmer line. We've got our main drain line. We've got our 3-way valve, and then we've got our filter and our supply lines going back to the pool. We have a chlorinator, and this is pretty handy because we've just got a couple unions there. So we're going to actually remove the chlorinator here for the winter, and that will provide us with an opening to where we can actually blow through this port right here. And then here's a look at our skimmer box. And we've got our opening down below, and that's actually where we're going to start with our leaf blower. We're going to stick this nozzle down into the hole there, turn the leaf blower on, and then what we'll see is water being pushed back through the pump there so it can drain out. We're just going to go ahead and insert the nozzle of our leaf blower here. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it on and watch the water flow.
Can I try and turn it on?
Yep.
Hello? Wait, here?
Yep. Push it down that way. Down that way. So you can see here, we've got water being pushed through, and I can start to hear air actually blowing on through here. I'm just letting the air blow through for a couple minutes. I'm just trying to clear out as much of the water as I can. It doesn't have to be totally clear, because really we just want to allow some space for expansion when the water changes into ice during the winter. All right, so we've just blown out the skimmer. I'm going to go ahead and just run it for another quick second to make sure we got any last push of water. And here we can see we're clear, so we're all done with the skimmer blowout. So we're back here at the equipment pad, and we've got our main drain here. This is one where generally you need a pretty high-powered compressor to actually be able to blow through that whole line, because it does go to the bottom of the pool. There's just so much head pressure on it. Normally a shop-vac or a leaf blower is not going to be able to do it, and that's fine because so much of it is underground below the frost line, It's going 8 feet under the pool, and in my 15 years, never had issues with it freezing. But what we are gonna do is use the leaf blower, try and push air through it, and generally what happens is then we'll actually get some water to flow back up through here. So I'm just trying to get as much water as I can out of there, and then what I'm gonna do is essentially turn the valve so that it's closed onto the main drain, kind of traps an air pocket in there to prevent the whole line from being full of water. So now we've got water that's kind of bubbling back up through the main drain, kind of clearing at least a little bit of the water out of that line. We'll do this a few times. So here I've got a gallon of marine and RV antifreeze. Works in very cold weather. We're going to use this just to put some in the lines here so that if there is water that's still in the lines, this will help protect against it freezing too much. And so before I make my final push with the leaf blower on the main drain, I'm going to go ahead and just use a funnel to try and get some of this antifreeze into the plumbing there. I'll push it with the leaf blower, and then we're going to close the valve to lock in both the air and the antifreeze with whatever water is still in the main drain line. Here I'm just going to pour about 1/4 gallon of the antifreeze and trying to direct it into the main drain line. It's kind of an odd angle, so a lot of it ends up actually spilling back into the pump housing, but some of it does get into that line, and I figure it's better than nothing. So we've got the valve closed off now to the main drain, and we are going to keep it that way. So after getting the main drain secured, I'm going to go ahead back to the skimmer here and pour some antifreeze into the lines. So once we've got the antifreeze in the skimmer line there, I've got my winterizer or my gizmo here, threaded connection that we just go ahead and thread into our skimmer port. This will help keep rain and snow melt and everything else from entering the skimmer line over the off season. So here's our return back to the pool. We've got our salt chlorine generator that we're going to go ahead and disconnect. And so with our salt cell removed, we've got an open, easy access port for our leaf blower to push air back through the returns to the pool. Otherwise, if you don't have a salt cell where you have these union connections, you may have union connections further upstream that you can go ahead and open up. Otherwise, the other option would be to actually blow in the reverse direction from the jets back through the equipment pad, back through the filter, and drain it out. And so I've got one line that goes to the stairs, one that goes to the shallow and deep end. I can never remember which is which, but it really doesn't matter here. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and just close one off so that we're directing all the air back through one set. And we can see we've got the air and water just sputtering out of those jets. And again, I'm going to let this run for a couple minutes, try and get as much of that water out as I can, and then we'll end up plugging these off. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch the valve so that we're blowing out the deep end ports. And immediately I get water shooting out of our shallow end jet. And this is pretty important here to note. I've got the water coming out of one of the jets, the shallow end, but at the deep end I have no water or air blowing out. And that's because essentially air is going to travel through the path of least resistance, which is going to be that shallow jet because it is much closer to the equipment pad. And what this means is I'm going to let this shallow end jet blow out for a couple minutes till it's fairly dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and plug it, and that should then force the air through the deep end jet. And almost immediately after plugging the shallow end jet, I can see water starting to flow through the deep end jet. And as I continue to let it blow out, I'll start to get larger quantities of water mixed with air, kind of that sputtering effect. So again, I'm going to let this run for a couple minutes, and then I will be plugging that jet. So now I'm going to go ahead and just cap off or plug the remaining returns here, and then we're going to go ahead and throw some antifreeze into the plumbing back over near the equipment pad so that we have our lines all nice and winterized. And as you're plugging off your lines, it's always a good idea to check the condition of the O-ring on your plugs. If it's deteriorated or broken, it could allow water to enter back into those lines over the course of the winter. Alright, we've gone ahead and now winterized our returns back to the pool. Just got done pouring the antifreeze in. I'll be putting essentially a dummy fitting in there where the chlorine generator was, but that'll kind of get things closed back up and ready for the freeze. For reference, I went through the whole gallon of antifreeze. May have been a little bit light on it, but this is all I had, and I've had success in the past even just using a gallon. Now we've got the cover on, ready for winter. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks.